this is going to be the final installment to this topic. We dealt with this a long time ago, but we're going to do something different with a little added information. All right, this is from a post that Mr. Dackins asked. He said, why don't James make a video of this explanation of the meaning of the name Amennubi in this book, and why didn't Jeb, which is short for Johnnie Eugene Brown, give the meaning of the name, and also make a video explaining why Johnnie Eugene Brown, which is Afro-Unu, never came out and challenged Malachi Z. York on the name Amennubi or of MZ York plagiarizing any of his so-called work. All right, we dealt with this many, many times. Number one, Amunubi Rahkaptah was used from 1967, as far as we know, on written documents to 1972. Then he changed his name in 73. So that's old. He didn't need to use that name anymore. So that's like anything. That's like you asking an R&B group or a rock and roll group, why did y'all stop using this name and took on this name? Because they were done using that name. We already know that York picked that up in the 90s and pretended to be somebody else. So we already seen in part one that York didn't originate nothing. He fronted like he created the term overstand, which is a lie. And y'all gotta understand something. Just because somebody makes something popular, that doesn't mean that they originated. Just like Cardi B, when she was coming out doing that she didn't create that. It was a girl on YouTube was using that a long time before she even got that. But because Cardi was the one that was seen saying it, people just assume she came up with it. This is deception. All right? So let's get on into it for this Amennubi, because he somewhere in his demented mind, he thinks sound right reason don't work with me in the things that I'm doing. See, unlike York and the rest of them who claim that they are the source of knowledge, it's foolery. All right, so we're gonna go to this book that I've written, right? And it's called Nupu Interpretations about the Holy Quran's 14 surahs about Judgment Day. All right, so we're gonna start with page 20, right? This was explained on pages 15 and 19. Listen to sound right cosmic reason. We have come to the end of part one of this publication. These verses are just replicas from the book of Revelation, which alter ways to say the same thing. It is clear that the God Allah and Ray are the same. That is why Ray is in the word Revelation. The nature books have given us a roadmap to where the sun god of Islam has been in other cultures around planet Earth. The question might be asked, where is this sun god presently at or has been doing since then? The sun god Allah, whose older name is Re or Ra, is an original spirit god, and we will read on this topic more. Since reason is the intelligence word and the intelligence power of this book, the writer of this volume must define and identify it at the beginning of these writings. The etymological and literal meaning of the word reason is the son of Re and the son of Ra. Of course, Ra and Re are names of sun and sun god, and the sons of the universe of nature are indeed the sources of universe reason, because the fact is their brains located in their centers produce universe and nature mind, reason, sun gods and sun goddesses. The real scientific and philosophical meaning of the word reason is the intellect, best mind, and intelligence of absolute, infinite, eternal nature, and the mental spirit creator of all person, place, and things, natural and artificial. Reason is natural ether energy produced by brain concentration as brain news, the prime mover in matter. Meltdown. See topic about brain news in part one of this volume. Reason is mind and mental spirit produced by brain concentration. Introduction to the Nature, book 1, pages 7 through 8. Listen to reason. Original spirit beings are indeed the result of and are created by brain concentration by universe orbs of nature, such as the sun, earth, and moon of our solar system. And they are ether energies who are motivating and activating minds in forms of degrees of reason. Nonetheless, it should be very well understood, for there are much confusion and misunderstanding on the spirits and creation subject, that though individual spirit beings are creators, they do not take the place of brain newts, creative brain, and creative reason. Spirit beings are creators of skills, habits, conditions, situations, diseases, cures, religions, religious strife, wars, peace, miracles, magicism, oppression, one-sided racism, racial violence, slavery, liberation programs, and other activities and realities that motivate, activate, and control persons and things and make them better or worse. Spirit beings are opposites of human beings in the sense that human beings are visible and spirit beings are invisible in the bottom half of the smack circle of order. Let it be remembered, always let it be known. Introduction to the Nature of Nature, Book 1, page 78. Listen to reason. These gods, when on earth, do what is called incarnation, where the spirit god or goddess merged with the human host for a time in order to inform humans and also change human direction according to the cycle and season. Listen to reason. The demigods and goddesses are the fifth level of the royalty and elites of absolute nature. A god is a male organism once created and organized, or he or she never ceases to exist in one form and formula or another until the universe of nature disintegrate. And of course, a goddess is the female version of a god definition. A god and goddess are mental and spiritual and can become physical by incarnation or magic. Let it be known. Listen to reason. A demigod is a spirit god of lesser rank than original spirit god, and he was procreated by spirit to spirit reproduction, and the same goes for demigods, goddess, in the female sense. An original spirit god or goddess is one who was created by brain concentration at the center of a universe. At the center of a universe orb. A different level of demigod category is when a spirit god or goddess becomes an incarnation or reincarnation by entering a human being and dilating himself or herself throughout the physical body, including the head of that person. The other different lesser levels of semi-godhood can be created if that incarnate god or goddess has offspring with other incarnations or reincarnates or with chosen by nature human beings. Let it be known. Listen to reason. Nature royalty is determined by blood lineage flowing from the incarnation of gods and goddesses and the kinship of demigods and goddesses to their ancestry. If a person is a natural born king, a natural born queen, a natural born priest, or a natural born elite by nature, he or she learns of it in the proper place and at the proper time, because those people are royalty of absolute nature and thereby obligated to learn and practice positive nature knowledge, including the laws and also standards of nature, and be able to lead people in the right way. These facts are especially true now that the moon cycle and evolution have ended and the sun cycle and revolution have begun. Let it be known. Transcript of audio tape, pages 6 through 7. With that being said, we can have a better equal standing that the sun god called Allah can and has been inside a human being, and this goes for all spirits in general. There are higher levels of gods that the sun god Re is not above. Let this be known. Now, Nature of Nature books indeed were not written by Amunubi without help. That being said, let this writer clarify what he means. The first part of this we need to is look to start with these books first. The prologue transcript of Introduction to the Nature of Nature. The transcript is dedicated to all people in general and the Ethiopian race in particular, by Nubi Ripu, with information provided by Amunubi. All right? Nubi Ripu was another name used by Amunubi. Many people think they were two different individuals because of how they appear written in the book, as well as a recording done that came along with this audiobook. This can be accessed on findnownnews.com if you want to hear the voice of Afro Uno. It can be found in the book section tab at the top of the website. At the bottom, you click in that part of the site. Who is the reader of this presentation? All right, so we need to pay very close attention to everything. All right, listen to reason. Listen to reason. The reader of this correct information is Nubi Ripu, and I am one of the chief representatives of Afro Unu, Nupu, and Noon. All right, so these are three individuals that's being spoken of. All right, pay attention. I'm gonna read that again. The correct information is Nubi Ripu, and I am one of the chief representatives of Afro Unu, Nupu, and Noon. And for the benefit of the listening audience, Nubi Ripu is spelled Nubii and Ripu Repoo. And Nubi Ripu is indeed a member of the African race, also called the Ethiopian race. And for the benefit of the reading public, the name Nubi Ripu is pronounced Nu-Bi Ripu. Of course, all us kinky-haired people are racial relatives by race and nature. Let it be remembered, always let it be known. Who is the writer of this presentation? Once again, there is something else happening here. Now, first part, it said the reader. Now we're finna go into the writer. All right, listen to reason. The writer of this correct information is Afro Unu, who is the philosopher, writer, and messenger of what? Nupu and Noon. And for the benefit of the listening audience, Afro Unu is spelled Afroo and Oonoo. Afro Unu is originally from the Sudan in motherland Africa, and he definitely is a member of the African race, also called the Black race. You personally need to know the writer of this positive knowledge, not nearly so much as you need to know this correct information he has written. And for the benefit of the reading public, the name Afro Unu is pronounced Afro Unu. The writer repeats, all us kinky-haired people are racial relatives by race and nature. Let it be remembered, always let it be known. This writer will focus on the latter part of the name Ripu. In order to break this down, let the book explain who Ripu is. The first time you see the word Ripu is in the very beginning of the book, page 2. Introduction to the nature. It says what? The star representative, also known as Ripu the sun. All right, so now Ripu is identified as the star, the sun. The sun and noon signs is called Ripu. This is a description in Nature Book 1, page 89. Listen to reason. Spirit beings are natural ether energies and mind. A physical sun god called a god sun is a true star. Okay? A physical visible sun and all the male powers in the magnetic field of that true star. A spirit sun god and goddess are the concentrated mind reason that the brain of the true star produces. This writer is now discussing the gods and goddesses of the past, present, and future of the top and bottom halves of the smack circle of order. And remember, original reason spirits, original gods and goddesses are produced in the top half of the smack circle of order during the time that the top half exists, and they go through all the changes that the circle of order does. Plus, their visibility in the top half of the circle and their invisibility in the bottom half. The world soul Nupu is all gods and goddesses, physical and spiritual, and all natural ether powers and forces in the top half of the circle of order during the time that the top half exists. And the world soul Zupu is the same, but counterpart and opposite by nature in the bottom half of the same circle during the time that the bottom half exists, which is now. The two circles, halves, or two halves of the order circle do not exist at the same time. And the smack circle exists 1 degree at a time. Let it be remembered always and let it be known. Introduction to the Nature books, pages 89 through 90. I think this is book 1. So we see, excuse me. All right, so we see that Nubi Ripu, Afro Unu, is claiming mental connection to the sun and its powers in the magnetic field of that true star. This same statement can be found in Bible Interpretations and Explanations, Booklet 1, number 5. It says, just as there are forces that can foretell the future, there are also forces that can retrace the past. And Amunubi Rahkaptah, writer of Bible Interpretation and Explanation, has access to all forces necessary to retrace and foretell, and this fact made these booklets possible. So again, while Earl is trying to make fun of me talking about I talk to planets, actually the information is making it clear that those who are chosen by sovereign reason have access to the forces of nature. At no time is an alien listed as a force of nature, because they are not. All right, so it's telling you here that you have that Amennubi, which we know is Afro Unu, because we already proved that York denied that claim after he was exposed. All right, so let's keep it moving. Listen, one authorized and appointed by the forces of nature is what? Given connection and access to the powers of what? The sun, moon, and powers of planet Earth. At no point did York ever make these claims. Everything that York ever said when it came down to what he was doing, it was always some alien involved. He would rely on the positive force of nature of Nupu, but Nupu wasn't working with him. Leviathan was. And they was using their powers through the form of religion and pantheism and occultism, which is Freemasonry, of which York taught. Okay? These books here are clearly stating the actual sun, moon, and earth is the powers that Amennubi had access to. That he may take his place in the sun. York took his place in Colorado's Supermax. That's not the sun. All right? Meaning in universal affairs and all of his kind who are able to what? Learn, understand, and accept universal knowledge and facts as disclosed by what? 9 ether will also be given what? The same connections. You see that, Earl? While you laughing and picking at us and me talking about the orbs at all times, the sun, the moon, UY Scooty, the alpha stars, I'm in direct line with the information. Y'all Negroes trying to connect with gay aliens and homosexual aliens ain't got nothing to do with 9 ether, because homosexuality is a form of sex perversion and 6 ether is sex. 9 ether ain't sex. So all of the stuff that y'all are controlled by is Leviathan, especially by way of the moon god. That's why y'all keep talking about hermaphrodites, and York was looking for 4 hermaphrodites before he got arrested. Got nothing to do with 9 ether. All right? So once again, 9 ether will also be given the same connections. Let me go back. It said, and accept universal knowledge and facts as disclosed by 9 ether will also be given the same connection and powers for realization. See, realization and maintenance of liberty, justice, equality, rightness, and survival beyond Armageddon, which I already told you idiots is 2025. You in the Armageddon now, the last leg of it now. But y'all so busy laughing at us, you don't even realize y'all about to die. The war of showdown between right and wrong. Now look at the beginning of Nature Book 1 again. The star representative, also known as Ripu, what? The sun. The planet representative, also known as Jipu, the earth. The satellite representative, also known as Sipu, the moon. See? Sun, moon, sun, earth, the moon, right? What did it say up here? Will also be given the same connection of powers for realization. Let me go back up. I'm sorry. It says give access, get the same connection right here. One authorized and appointed by the force of nature is given connection and access to the powers of what? The sun and moon and the powers of planet Earth. This is in the Bible interpretation, the explanation. So that was in the 60s. Now you jump to the 90s when the nature books are being written. What does it say? He are the publishers of this book in individuality. They say the publishers. So look who's being called the publisher. The sun, the earth, and the moon, dummy. See, we back again, dummy. You're slow, dummy. Got to make it known, dummy. We see all three orbs are mentioned again. Is this coincidence? How about another connection? The Bible interpretation explanation, quote, I just used says in this part, just as there are forces that can foretell the future, there are also forces that can retrace the past, and Amunubi Rahkaptah, writer of Bible interpretation and explanation, has access to all forces necessary to retrace and foretell. And this fact made these booklets possible. One authorized and appointed by the forces of nature is given connection and access to the powers of the sun, moon, and powers of planet Earth. I don't see aliens nowhere in this. All right? This quote is stating the powers of force of the sun, earth, and moon make the Bible interpretations and explanations possible. Now let's relook at the nature book one beginning and we see this. Here are the publishers of this book in individuality. Repu the sun, Jipu the earth, Sipu the moon. First publication of this book, July 19th, 1993. The same thing is being stated, but with the names of the orbs. Now we move on to more description of Repu spirit-wise. Since reason is the intelligence word and the intelligence power of this book, the writer of this volume must define and identify at the beginning of these writings, the etymological and literal meaning of the word reason is the son of Re and the son of Ra. Of course, Ra and Re are the names of sun and sun god, and the sons of the universe of nature are indeed the source of universal reason, because the fact is their brains located in their centers produce universe and nature mind, reason, sun gods, and sun goddesses. All right? Nature book 1, pages 7 through 8. The prefix to Repu is Re, and these sun spirits, male and female, are produced by our sun and other orbs. So you can replace Repu with sun spirit. This means that Nubi, Repu, the man, was incarnated with a sun spirit, Repu, that came from our sun by way of mind concentration. Now we move on to the word Nubi next. However, let us deal with another word that will make my point more solid. Listen to reason. While on the origin of the kinky hair belonging to the Ethiopian race, let this scribe of 9 writings known as Noon disclose a few more facts about kingly hair. The word number is a variant of the word Nubian or Nuba, and of course the word number refers to one or more of the numerical cipher in digits 0 through 9 used in the English language. This means that the cipher 0 through 9 digits were created by our Ethiopian race ancestors on the Nile River in Africa, who call themselves by number names in sequence for the first or given names, and the last or surname being the same for all members. The main point here is this, not only. The point here, Nubi is just another way to say Nubian, Nuba, etc. Now when we compare both names, we can see the same meanings. None of the gods known his true form. His image is now unfolded in the papyrus rolls. Nothing certain is testified about him. Amun equals hidden because spirits are invisible. Listen to reason. The human form is the favorite form of the god Hu, the ancient god of utterance. Therefore, the human figure is that of the pygmy gods and goddesses of the top half of the smack circular order during the time that the top half exists. Hence, peoples and apes basically evolve away from the human form, which is somewhat round-like figure, toward a lesser form, which is a straight or wavy line. In other words, evolution of persons, apes, and things is not toward the human and round forms, but toward the serpent forms. The word human is a variant of the word Hamun, is a variant of the word Amun, also called Amen and Amen. The ancient god Amun was always shown in a form similar to those of the flesh and blood gods or the tie path of the order circle. Hence, we get the word human, Haman, and the figure human. The name Hu get the word human, Haman, and the figure human. The name Hu is another name for the god Amun or Hamun. Human beings had to be evolving from one form toward another. We indeed were evolving from the human form, the pygmy gods and goddesses, form toward the serpent form. And we humans would develop tails like other animals if we were to evolve much further in time. Animals have tails resembling the serpent because they are modified forms of the serpent, physically and also spiritually. Of course, the tails of animals are beneficial to them as insect repellents, balancing factors, and protecting covers for their rectums and so on. Wherever possible during evolution, all persons and things evolve toward the straight and wavy lines, just as all persons and things during revolution, wherever possible, must revolve toward the oval and round lines as the revolution cycle progresses. Let it be remembered, always let it be known. Introduction to the Nature Book 2, pages 120 to 121. This same sun god has been written under another name in the Nature Book 6,000 years ago, which we will read about now. Listen to reason. Let's take a look at the setting of the Garden of Eden, Africa and Asia, 6,000 years ago. Pantheism, including Sabianism, was the ruling spirit of science. And the head of the pantheon was 4 main gods. So people were talking about the gods instead of one god. The main spirit gods were the sun god, earth god, moon god, and underworld god, and their consort goddesses. The king of the Garden of Eden was a reincarnation of the lion god Rahkaptah, also called Hermachus and Epidemic, who was statued by the great Sphinx at Giza, Egypt and Africa. Some leading adherents like priests and nuns of King Amennubi, the reincarnation of the sun god Rahkaptah, were required to maintain celibacy, abstinence from marriage, and sexual pleasure similar to that of Roman Catholic priests and nuns of today at this writing. Abstinence from sexual pleasure for the sake of morality and public well-being. Let it be remembered, always let it be known. Listen to reason. There existed groups of priests and nuns loyal to the commandments of the sun god, who was later called Amun-Ra and represented by a hawk-head or eagle-headed man instead of a lion-headed man or a man-headed lion whose human form was deadened. According to ancient history research, therefore Amun, whose main form was the human form, and Dedan, the Nubian god, who was always represented by a human form, was synonymous. That is, similar or the same. Adam of the Garden of Eden was not one man, but a group of Phoenician and East Indian priests. All right? Phoenician is another word for the Arabs. All right? So you had Arabs and East Indian peoples who were priests, all right? But a group of Phoenician East Indian nuns, all sworn to celibacy similar to Roman Catholic priests and nuns of today. The moon god Sin, which is Tahuti, was jealous of the sun god Rahkaptah because Rahkaptah was getting most of the attention, honor, and pleasure required by the gods and goddesses from human beings. So again, Tahuti, the moon god, is a jealous god. And that's why when you hear people say that in the Bible, and I think in Exodus, one of the 10 commandments, your Lord thy God is a jealous God. So that's the moon god talking. Why was he jealous? Because the sun god was getting all the pleasure and honor. And so because moon god, so you got to put the moon god in there. Tahuti, because he's a jealous god. Why? Because he's a moon god. The moon don't have all the glory that human beings need. Because humans, if you had to choose, if you took the moon away, life still can go on without the moon. Of course, the waters would be chaotic and all of that. But if human beings can make it through that, you can still survive. But if you take the sun away, nobody will be here, including the moon. All right? So this is what y'all got to equal stand. This is why Nunibus who are following the sun cycle and following sound right reason, whose ruler in the bottom half is a sun herself, Jutah or Jupiter. It's why the Sabians are mad and angry with us, because they are moon followers, and the moon is opposite of the sun. So this is explaining the beef. All right. And let's keep going on. The East Indian priests and nuns did represent the earth god. Right, here we go now. Let's go back. It is so that the Phoenician priests and nuns represented the sun god, Jutah, Jupiter. The East Indian priests and nuns did represent the earth god, which is Geb. And the Mongolian priests and nuns represented the moon god. And those are the Tibetan monks that got involved with the sex Carthages. They gave them Spanish fly, but we talked about this already. And remember, it was time for the moon cycle, the last stage of evolution, to begin. So what happened with Adam and Eve was just a part act in the program to get the moon cycle started on this negative way. Let it be remembered well. Nature Book 2, pages 127, 128. Afro-Uno used a variation of that 6,000-year-old name in 1967 to 1971 AD, which can be seen on an old book cover. Published by Those Who Care, New York, New York, dedicated to liberty, justice, rightness, equality, and unity. So here you see Amennubi Rahkaptah, the old name that King Menes used, right? The first ruler of the first dynasty. That's who one of his name was, Rahkaptah. Bible Interpretations, Book 1 cover. We also reiterate white people are ghost people because their spiritual origin is ghost, but their physical origin is the Phoenician and Indian races. Again, this is what Sabians, followers of Dr. York, is getting the story wrong again. We again repeat, for further information on this subject, see booklets known as Bible Interpretation and Explanation written by Amunubi Rahkaptah, one of the teachers of the sciences who write these booklets, the nine ball, count 3, number 11 in part. However, you will find in the nature books a story about a 6,000-year-old king named Amennubi Rahkaptah. And York never talked about this king. He don't never mention this king when he was out. Whenever he talked about the Adam and Eve story, he always talked about this angel named Uriel and all these other Anunnaki angelic beings was in the garden. Foolishness. Listen to reason. Let's take a look at the setting of the Garden of Eden, Africa, 6,000 years ago. Pantheism, including Sabianism, was the ruling spiritual science, and the head of pantheon was 4 main gods. So people were talking about the gods instead of one god. The main spirit gods were the sun god, earth god, moon god, and underworld god, and their consort goddesses. The king of the Garden of Eden was a reincarnation of the lion god Rahkaptah, all right? Also called King Amennubi. All right, we're going back down. We went through this already. Nature Book 2, page 127 to 128. Here's the breakdown of both names. Amennubi equals Amun, the hidden, in reference to the spirit inside. The dumbest listening in York made them believe that Amennubi Rahkaptah means the faithful soul of the tides. Straight garbage. All right, so here we go. Nubi equals Nubian or an African male from Nubia. Racha equals Ra equals the sun. Ak equals spirit. Ka equals spirit. Okay? Ta equals a name for African people in Nun as well as our ancestors and Nupu. So when y'all keep saying that he said faithful soul of the tides, the word for soul is Ba. There's not a Ba sound in Amennubi. And Amun doesn't mean faithful. When you look up Amen in the book of Revelation in the Greek, it means that. But this is way before that. It was no Greek language 6,000 years ago. Listen to read that stated earlier in this book. In the top half of the smack circle of order, there was no organic sex intercourse. So when the time came for the people of flesh and blood called gods and goddesses to start having organic sex with each other at 0.6 wets, the beginning of evolution and the death cycle, natural lust, sexual urge came, and of course they began having physical sex with each other. And the results of their opposite sex unity and activity were the first offspring, the Ethiopian race, the Ethiopian race, who was born in the form of the African pygmies of 9 different subdivision races who eventually divided into many other branches. As you know, the African race today, let it be remembered, always let it be known. Again, you dummies talking about York, believing York, talking about extraterrestrials created human beings. This is a direct in opposition to noon and reality. Okay, you go into the 9 ball, it talks about the pygmy gods and them. And at the origin of creation. There's no aliens involved in that. More Leviathan lies. Introduction to the Nature of Nature, book 1, page 173. Basically the same as Nubi, the African person, and Ripu is the sun spirit. The spirit can direct a person to deliver a message verbally or by way of writing via incarnation, in which a spirit god, male or female or neuter gender, enters a person to do a job for a time. What is a spirit and how does an incarnation take place? According to the ancients, a spirit, good or evil, is conscious gases that can produce spirit gases from blood or water in order to emanate. There are 2 kinds of spirit, ether and ghost. St. Matthew 3, chapter 11, verse. And these 2 forces represent the opposite, the living and the dead, black and white, sun and moon, and so on. Whether a spirit is good or evil depends on whom it is for or against. A spirit can be good at one time and evil at another time. It is considered a good spirit to those it's for and an evil spirit to those it is against. Regardless of whether it is ether or ghost, of course, a spirit is good to those it helps and evil to those it harms. Since spirits are gas forces, they can enter a person's body at will and leave at will. Of course, the incarnation is a spirit god in the flesh. According to the angels, an incarnation takes place this way. A person can be engendered only by a fleshly father and fleshly mother, and the person predestined to become God will be contacted by voices and visions, mental contact. During the mental contact, again, this ain't talking about no aliens. It's clearly telling you what does the contacting. There may be an offer made for the person to accept or reject. The person usually accepts the offer because he is usually in no position to reject it. When the offer is accepted, the spirit forces themselves to make physical contact and they become incarnate by seeping through the flesh to the lung, and from there they dilate themselves throughout the flesh and blood of the person. Then the person and spirit forces, spirit God, are in the same image and likeness. The God becomes the image of the person, and the person becomes the likeness of the God. The person to that spirit forces chose to become a God is usually a person of royal lineage. If that man fathered his son after the spirit forces incarnate through his flesh and blood, the child is the son of man, the man who fathered him, and the son of God, the God that incarnated in the man. As stated earlier in this booklet, Jesus' father was a Roman military man of high rank, and that military man proclaimed publicly that he was the incarnation of the God Phonus. St. John 8th chapter, 41 verse. He was also a triumvir of the Roman triumvirate. Bible Interpretation and Explanation, Book 1. Listen to reason. The book of Revelation of the Caucasian Bible, the last book of the Bible, was indeed written by the moon god Sin. All right? Tahuti. So y'all sitting here following and worshiping Tahuti. He's the one that brought in the book of Revelation on the Isle of Patmos, and the Bible is a spell. According to the nature books, the Bible interpretation, and the noun ball. So Tahuti is the one that put the Bible out, and helped the Caucasian do what he had to do according to nature. Right? On the Isle of Patmos, an island in the Aegean Sea, which is a part of the Mediterranean Sea. So the book of Revelation, chapter 12, verse 9, was written at the beginning of the sin cycle, the religion cycle. But why York didn't tell y'all that? When he was putting out the book of Revelation, he didn't translate verse 9 as being written by Tahuti. He left that out, didn't he? Sin is an ancient name of the moon and moon god. At this point, the writer would like to disclose how religion got some of its doctrines and dogma, but first, let the writer say that the principal reason this is scribe is investigating, examining, analyzing, interpreting, describing, and explaining some of the ramifications of religion are: one, it has its science. Religion are one, it is his science, job, and assignment by Nupu and Almighty, end quote. Introduction to the Nature book 2, page 250. Nature book, page 250 in part. There are plenty of quotes in the Nature book that speaks of other influences on the writings within the books themselves besides Afro-Unu. Listen to reason. Yet we, the physical and mental spiritual writers of this book, do verify that like a light bulb, the positive energy of nature would not produce light, mental or physical, without the negative energy, and likewise vice versa. And this is why we know that there is no such thing as some all-positive God in the sky is coming to destroy some all-negative God or force on earth as religion projects. Nature book 2, page 252. In the English, we, the physical and mental writers of the science noon, call the Almighty one being by the name nature. Let it be remembered always and let it be known. Nature book 2, page 19. Now we relook at the question raised: who is the reader of this presentation? Listen to reason. The reader of this correct information, Nubi Ripu, and I am one of the chief representatives of Afro-Unu, Nupu and Noon, and for the benefit of the listening audience, Nubi Ripu, spelled Nubi Ripu, is indeed a member of the African race, also called the Ethiopian race, and for the benefit of the reading public, the name Nubi Ripu is pronounced Nubi Ripu. Of course, all us kinky-haired people are racial relatives by race and nature. Let us remember, always let it be known. It is clear the reader is indeed the sun spirit Ripu, who was formerly known as Raha, the sun spirit, who was using Afro-Unu as a vessel. And we talk about Amunubi Rahkaptah. The Raha is the word sun spirit right there. And Ta was referring to the physical person. So when you say Nubi Ripu, Nubi is the man, Ripu is the spirit. But if you reverse it and say Ripu Nubi, that spirit Ripu is the one that is speaking through Nubi. Okay? It's no different in the word Amunubi Rahkaptah. Because in all actuality, the spirit will be first. So you can say Rahkaptah, the spirit Amun is hidden in Nubi Ta, the human being, the African. You can rearrange it. You're still going to get the same thing. Who is the writer? Listen to reason. The writer's correct information is Afro-Unu. So there's a distinction. There's the spirit speaking through him, but it's speaking in second and third person because it's saying I. So the spirit has to say Nubi and Ripu, meaning Nubi was the human, but the spirit is the one that's taking lead as far as explaining through the human being. But he's using it all saying that we, because once the spirit being incarnates and dilates itself into the lungs, that person is one. The spirit and the human being are in each other's image and likeness. So the spirit can say I and we and he and still separate themselves, but those of us who know that know exactly what's taking place. So it should be clear why there was distinction made between the reader and the writer. Afro-Unu refers to himself as writer, and so did the sun, the earth, and the moon, whenever they chimed in mentally to speak on the past, present, and future. The book clearly defines who is doing what in this situation. The term Nawapu was mentioned in the BIAE and 9-ball counts 1 through 4. However, the term Nawapu was something you would have to be qualified for in the future. Those books, BIA and 9 counts, was not Nawapu, but would be given later in what's called the science of Nawapu. I quote, the liberation force of Ethiopians, woolly-haired people by nature, is non-ether, whose scientific name will be disclosed in our science Nawapu. Non-ether is the original creative forces that made these booklets possible. BIAE Book 2, Number 6. The booklets called Bible interpretations and explanations are not the science Nawapu itself, but the diligent reading and diligent study and profound understanding of these booklets will open up the mind, tear down barriers, and qualify the mind for the universal science called Nawapu. And even now, these cult members that changed the name 50 times. So y'all are not the ones. All right? Bible Interpretation Explanation Book 2, Number 15. Noon Science was it, which came in 1973 after the 9-ball counts in 1971 to 1972. Nupu are mental energies that contacted Unu, Amunubi Rahkaptah, in 1962, February 5th, at the end of the moon cycle. Nowhere in those early books classify as the science, even though the portions of noon science were mentioned throughout. However, it was greatly expounded on and finished in the Nature Writers. Remember to purchase other books on our website to further education. True me the common peace in war times. So that clarifies Amennubi Rahkaptah. Nobody is using that name now because the name was only for 1967 to 1971. And the only reason why Earl is so caught up in that because he's stuck on logos. And logos is a form of 6 ether. And they keep trying to find ways to keep glorifying Tahuti, who had used York and still using them with the help of Leviathan. All right? True me to common peace in noon times.